Hello, everybody. I wasn't planning on doing a podcast, but that was, what fun. What's the point of North American Amateur if we don't have three podcasts in one day? Boklu, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome to Return, gang. Um, yeah, one sec. So I hosted this podcast because I think there are conversations I'd like to have. Urban, thank you very much for the follow. And I think that Myra's getting a little bit tired, so we'll see. Before we get anything, hello everybody. If anyone has any questions, comments, concerns, stuff like that you want to chat about, shoot them out. Otherwise, I will be getting something set up. Or turn do I come on? Yo, Cubby, if you want to come on, you're always free, my guy. I will call you right now. I'm calling your bluff right now. Cubby, I've called you. You, you, you fucking called my bluff. I called it black. Yeah. SF Oddity. All right. So, oh, you're muted right now. There you go. Now it's stream can hear your beautiful voice.
Oh, okay.
So
Wow. I
I
just pinged as a joke. What's up?
yeah. What do you actually want to be on? You can leave if you want to. You're gonna disappoint
Uh,
everybody in this chat if you leave. But I'll still love you.
I
So,
mean, I'm pretty used to disappointing the masses.
hell yeah.
What is the topic of today's conversation? Are you going
I
to continue the Myra stuff?
I think I am. I think we're going to continue it somewhat. I think we're going to talk about finances in the league, and I'm debating whether or not we chat with somebody from the S org.
Oh, okay.
If you would like to be part of history.
I'm always down to be part of history. Uh,
Alrighty.
I thought that you were gonna maybe continue the collegiate part of that.
I'd say let's get to this SF thing because I don't know when people are going to go to bed. But if
Yeah,
we want
and
to
I
talk
know
about
that you
collegiate,
wanted to talk about collegiate.
I'm
Yeah,
very happy to talk about collegiate. But I'll
yeah,
I'll,
yeah.
I'll leave this up to you. This may be a hot topic. This is going to get reposted everywhere.
Yeah.
Choose right now whether or not you'd like to be part of history.
You know what? I'm making bad choices tonight, so we're gonna stick around.
Hell yeah, that's what I like to hear. Speaking of bad choices, let's get these guys in here. So I think I'm gonna have Oddity on. I
Okay.
respect Myra not really wanting to talk about it a lot. I do have to admit, Myra had some fucking banger tweets.
Yeah,
You know,
she went on a tirade this week.
I completely understand that she just wants to drop the mic. She completely deserves it. She owns it. Good for him. But
Yeah.
I am curious as to some viewpoints here, and I think it's worth having a
Frodo's got to
discussion.
stick around now.
Ah, hell yeah, dude, we're about to blow up in viewership. I didn't even tweet out about this. I'll keep the VOD up. If you guys want to share this afterwards, go for it.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
actually really curious to hear about the finances because, like, the
yeah,
rumor that I was hearing, which didn't end up coming true, is the at one point Riot was thinking about. The rumor was at one point they were going to think about making tier 3 teams pay academy team minimum for their third team, like for the amateur team. And it seems like that didn't go through, which is good because that means that like other orgs can definitely compete. Because
right.
if that would have went through, that would have been very, very tough to compete with orgs like that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
Yeah,
competition is going to be interesting. I'm very curious to see what happens in that second round of.
as like the roster swap, I assume is what you're getting into.
Yeah, sorry, I was.
Yeah. Because
Uh,
it's not about the S org, but I think it's like pretty public knowledge around the space that a couple of the teams are looking to switch up their rosters, especially even just today, Super Sunshine Fruit Basket Warriors, they disbanded and they're all looking for teams themselves. And so
mhm.
I think we're going to see quite a bit of a shakeup going into big.
Yeah, I think we are. I don't think it's really going to change around too much of the the running order. I think C9 probably can try to push for second, but it's very here. I've got. If you want to
Well,
entertain
hold
the
on.
crowd,
I
I'm setting up our interview real quick.
I didn't mention C9 by the way. That's
We all know
return
C9
mentioning
is
that.
fucking
Everyone who's
Jack
watching in here,
Angie, Jack Angie.
everyone
I'd
who's watching
assume.
in here probably knows, but um,
Yeah, I feel
if
like this is
not,
a pretty
surprise.
well-known secret at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, they want to bring three people in here. I'm gonna
Holy
retain
snap.
control of the call, so we can make sure things stay civil. But this should be interesting.
I don't think anything's not going to get uncivil by any
I don't think
means.
it's going to be uncivil.
No, absolutely not. It should
We're
be an
on
interesting
Discord. What's the worst that
conversation.
could possibly happen? All
Yeah,
right.
all right, apparently now I get to be a part of caster history with Return. Usually it's story time with Return. This time I might be one of those stories.
I mean, sometimes it's story time, sometimes it's Professor Return. As you noticed, I've left the lab coat out of this one. All right, I've invited.
I always appreciate Professor Returned.
Professor Return's always a great one. Um,
It was a good running
all
bit.
right, I bring it back every once in a while, but it's like Christmas. If you have too many Christmases, do they mean anything? I don't know what I'm saying at this point. It is very late. But I think that's the perfect time to start a podcast because that's what podcasting is about. People who don't know what the fuck they're
I
talking about,
mean,
just talking.
the last one that just started 3 hours ago was successful. So
True.
why not? Why
All
not
right.
throw on some more?
I'm inviting to the call. I'm going to invite Oddity, the main guy, and I think he's going to invite one or two other people. So,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, wish us luck. Oh, he hasn't accepted my friend request yet. He needs to friend me. If he doesn't friend me, there's nothing I can do.
It is out of our control.
It's out of our control, guys. Um, how's your day going?
SpongeBob, we're done.
Yo,
Not bad.
Rafacast joins the return crew with the sub. Hell yes, brother.
It's a pog champ.
It's a
going on there.
great emote. Oh, and a PogChamp. Thank you very much.
The podcast was interesting. I haven't talked with Myra or APA at length, so it was nice to kind of talk with them. Like I've talked to them like obviously through DMs, but not in a call, so that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I joked before I'm waiting for my invite. That does seem like a show I'd love to go on. But even as a viewer, I'm very much a fan.
You should do it. He's gonna try and get a new roundtable every single week.
I'm
So
ex-
that's
my
yeah.
my prediction is I'll be on in week 3 or 4. That's my guess.
Yeah.
I think there are other staff members who go through before me, but eventually you throw in returned. Okay, so I'm inviting him to the call. He is now friends with me. We have done it. We figured it out. You're gonna be kicked for a second, but don't worry, you'll be right back. Oh, it doesn't even kick you. Hell yeah.
Wow. That was weird though. Discord like did the thing.
Calix, what you just walked in on? You walked in on us finding a bear and poking it. So, welcome and hello, Oddity. Welcome to the return show. How are you?
How are you guys doing today?
Good. We're doing all right. Here, can you
Good.
add?
It's nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, pleasure.
Nice to meet you as well.
Yeah.
Got pinged and woke up from probably 30 people saying, "Oh my God, go check out this stream or look at Twitter." So this is great.
I mean, I'll be straight with you. Whenever Myra streams, it's a big event. Like, we do a
Yeah, I
lot-
don't come
she doesn't
from
hold
esports or
back.
gaming, so couldn't
Yeah.
tell you.
She
Alright.
doesn't hold back. I don't. You
I'm adding a few
Got it.
people.
Oh yeah.
Hello now.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Here, no, I'm not going to share screen, so I'll just kind
What's
of
up, Nav?
vocally introduce people as they come in. So this is
Hey.
Nav. Hello, Nav.
Great casting.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for your notes, helping me prep as well. I
Oh, we
really
got a
appreciate that.
crew in here. All right.
Oh, we've got the whole Solafide
All right.
crew.
Me Stan. Hello.
Hey friends, how we doing?
We're doing pretty good. All right. I think we got one more person, Urban, in here as well.
Yes, sir.
What's good?
All right. So you've heard everybody. This is esports. Welcome to Solafide. Solafide. This is the NA amateur scene. So let's just get into it. We can kind of bounce around whatever points you wanted to. Is there anything you kind of want to say, before we get started? Maybe something we don't know about Solafide. Obviously, you guys coming into this season, we heard about this roster being put together. Originally, it was North American amateur team, and not amateur team rather. And then we heard Solafide, and I think all of us collectively were like, "What the fuck? Who are they?" So who are you
Yeah.
guys? Introduce us.
Well,
Introduce
this
us
is
to you.
Solafide.
Yeah.
So we're a very amateur organization, obviously, only been around for about 2 years. Business-wise, only probably the past 6 months since the acquisition of myself. In terms of what we do, came from the Apex Legends scene. We're very popular there. We've got some of the largest creators and one of the best teams in the scene, but we've decided to start building a foundation and expanding into other games. So League of Legends is ironically that second game that we're going to go into amongst many more in the near future.
Okay. And I guess we'll kind of step through it, and anyone is welcome to chime in, but kind of to direct our conversation, we'll go through it in a bit of a narrative way. So, you guys are established in Apex. not my scene, but power to whatever games you guys want to play. Realize that we have a bubble here in NA Amateur. Others do exist. What brought you guys to North America? Do any of you actually starting? Do any of you guys have experience in League of Legends, whether it be an amateur, collegiate, professional, what have you?
Yeah, I think I'm the only one here that can say yes. Yeah, I
And real
do.
quick, just as we're starting, like if you could just like quickly say your name because I don't have you guys like showing anywhere.
Sure, yeah, I'm Nav or Alex, whatever you want to call me. I've been a part of some top major organizations before, such as SK Gaming and such. So I've done everything from bidding to all of that fun stuff. So
Okay. If you don't mind me asking, what you say you were SK Gaming? Can you talk a little bit more about your experience with them? Were you coaching, management?
I was in management.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked with a lot of the North American side as well as dabbled on the EU side.
The North American side, like a North American team, or
Yeah, both North American teams, sponsorships. We had two teams, two franchise teams, not necessarily in League of Legends. One's
right?
invited to the leagues
Gotcha. Okay.
over in NA, and I led all of that. So
I'm sorry. I do have to remind myself occasionally that League of Legends is still not the only esports out there, but okay. Um, so familiar with League of Legends, and now still kind of continuing with all of you guys. What brought you to North American Amateur League of Legends, or semi-professional, however you'd like to go about it? What was the moment where you guys were like, yeah, this is something we have to do?
yeah, I think that's another thing I can touch on, to be honest with you. So I've grown organizations, just so you have a little bit of information behind me. I've worked on seven-figure profitable organizations, not just ones that lose 50 grand every month. I'm being a part of organizations that have been highly profitable after whether it's 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years. I've been a part of them, and yes, it is Alex. And essentially, I understand what it takes to get there. And when it comes down to a few different games that we actually looked at, depending on the acquisition cost of a team in it, whether it's, I don't know, the actual investment, League of Legends honestly made sense. I obviously understand numbers are being thrown around. I'm not going to touch on them too much.
Right.
But the level of investment we actually put into the scene makes a lot more sense for our overall plans across the next few years than it did to go into another game like CSGO, for example, especially in the North American region where we really want to target.
Okay, so that kind of highlights. But if I can kind of pinpoint more on that question,
Mhm.
what was that moment that you guys as an organization were like, this is something we need to get back into, specifically with that North American brand of League of Legends? Was
Yeah, I
there a
think I
moment,
can
or was it?
touch on that
Oh,
one,
go for
Alex.
it.
Yeah, I think it's probably best.
Hmm.
So I think that moment came quite some time ago. I know there's been a lot of, again, banter on the Twitter, which, just to put out there as a disclaimer, all the banter on the Twitter on our end, no hard feelings. It's literally banter. We come from Apex Legends. They're talking about a scene where the devs banter with the players, and it's not a friendly banter. So it's never a hard actually. Uh, we aren't facilitating thoughts to actually harm people or anything in that way, shape, or form, because I know a lot of people have some very strong feelings about us right now. But um, while we were strategizing and creating our overall plan, because again, we aren't just here to stay for a season or two. We have 10, 20, like we're looking at the very long game plan here. We aren't looking at the next few years. We're looking at permanently establishing. So what we're doing here in our strategized plan is building from the foundation up, and that's what League of Legends really is. I mean, 10 years from now, I'm very confident I can say League's going to be here. I think Alexander can touch on it even more if he'd like, but League is one of those games that you definitely have a safety net in, and you can count on being there, reliable, and having a strong scene and community behind it.
Cubby, did you have a question or?
No, I just want to say too that like we just like the banner. Like I think that's fully welcomed,
Hmm.
and something that I really wish that like more teams and players would do and lean into because it makes fun storylines for us. And we're playing video games. Like this is supposed to be fun, right? Like let's have fun and
Yeah,
like talk some smack. And
like
if we can't back it up, that's fine. GG, and then handshake and go to the next match. See what happens.
exactly. I mean, grew up playing Modern Warfare 2. Those lobbies, they prepare you. They put some hair on your chest.
Yeah, that's something entirely different. But yeah.
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, I'll be straight with you guys. Like in North American Amateur, banter's not something that we're not used to. But as Cubby said, it's something that maybe has died out as of late. So I'm sure longer you guys are in the banter, you guys will kind of get into that groove along with the rest of us. But uh, moving forward, so you're talking very much about the long term plan with League of Legends, and obviously League is a huge ecosystem. Obviously, the world it's still the biggest esport in the world right now. And I do think that we have to start off with a little bit of a baseline of what the situation is. And I know one of you mentioned that you really can't go into detail about what you're paying. Completely understandable. You guys, it's a business. It's contracts and whatnot. But are you able to give us kind of idea of ours? What some of the rumors are going around? Are they close to accurate? Are they in the right direction? Or can you give us anything on that end?
Yeah, look, I will say this. People are saying that we're the only organization putting in a high level of investment. Everyone that's saying there's nobody else, I can say that's a lie. I will just put that out there. I mean, we are putting in more than probably everyone else, but we aren't the only one putting a lot of money in.
Okay. And we're specifically talking about the North American amateur scene here, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Some of those orgs that you're referencing, and of course, no need to name names whatsoever, but are those orgs that you're referencing ones who are non-affiliated, so not your standard amateur, not 100x? Are there other pure amateur orgs
Sure.
that are matching your level of investment?
I wouldn't say matching, but a high level investment, yeah.
So at least you're in kind of like getting to the last step of establishing the context. You are saying that you're most likely the highest investor, that there are others who are investing heavily, but you are probably on the upper end of that spectrum.
I mean, from my knowledge, we are, but
Right.
yeah.
Okay. And I think that's a perfectly fine basis for us to start our conversations off of. So
Sure.
I think where, and I'm sure you guys were listening somewhat to Myra's Not podcast, where we were talking a lot about the business model of North American Amateur. Thank you, Cubby. That laugh
Yeah.
track was required.
Yeah.
Where a lot of us are baffled at the level of investment you guys have put in. And to give you a bit more background in North American Amateur, we have had money organizations come in before. I think most recently we had the Lotus brand. I don't think they quite reached the level of notoriety I'd say that your brand has just yet, but there are people who have been trying to put money in short term, haven't found success, haven't been able to make that money back, and have collapsed. I guess where I want to ask, and what I think the rest of the scene would like to ask, is why are you guys different? Because you guys, as we mentioned, are coming with a huge amount of investment. Where is that money going to come back from? Are you guys playing for an LCS spot? Are you guys playing for winnings, social media? What's your play?
I don't
So
know who wants to touch on this.
Oh, I got this one wrapped up perfectly. When I first got pinged and came into the stream, you guys are discussing how a lot of these orgs have no way for 'em to monetize. Well, something that really makes us different is we've already found the way to monetize. It might be a place that other orgs are missing or whatnot, but although we're small and we're very new and we're really just hitting the ground running at the moment, I think our thought process and overall our strategy is leagues above any other organization out there. I mean, the players we have alone have been a part of these massive organizations, and it doesn't just end at the players. I am in constant conversations with some of the biggest people in esports all the time. I'm making sure that we are doing this the right way. Our foundation is being set. We're different because not only are we backed and able to progress with what we're doing, but we're executing upon it. I wouldn't have gone into League if I knew I wasn't going to make any money from it. That doesn't make sense. I'm sure all of you guys have peeped my Twitter bio. It literally says finance. Yes, finance is my life. That's what I love. It's what I do. The ROI on this team and overall League of Legends and the organization as a whole, we're one of the few orgs that can probably say we're doing pretty damn good for ourselves at the moment.
Okay, so I really want to focus in on this because I can tell another PR guy when I see one. It is the art of saying everything and saying nothing. Trust me, I've been there. I am somewhat a PR guy myself. So you said that you found this new way to monetize League of Legends that nobody else has, and you're already doing fantastically. Can you point us in the direction of what that is? Because once again, going back to the confusion around, what is Solafide doing is nobody knows what you're talking about. I'll be honest, I've been in this scene for 10 years. I don't know what you're talking about. So can you understand that there are trade secrets, of course, but can you start leading us in that direction of where you guys have found that edge?
I definitely could, but I'm not going to, because if I did that, then other orgs would jump on it. And that's my edge. That's my ability to profit in the space. That's my ability to make sure I can give my players what I'm giving them. It's so that I can pay my staff, my management, and still profit from it all. I'm not going to leak that in any sense because it's so blindingly obvious that I'm able to do it. Again, it sounds very ignorant to say, but the way we are doing this and how we're building this ship to sell is appropriate for where we are. That's again why we're able to throw around what we are currently doing. I don't want to, I know that sounds like PR guy-ish if you want to, and if you want to talk PR, it's actually Stan. He's the one that makes sure I stay in check. because I can get wild myself. So
Hmm.
if I ever pause, it's because he's yelling at me.
Right, and I'm
No,
glad you,
keep
you
that one
pointed
noted.
something out as well because I will have to admit I am in the uh, portion of social media that does kind of think, no offense, that you're a bit of snake oil, and that's just because potentially I don't know what it is that you're doing. And perhaps it's the way that you are conveying those thoughts of where that income is coming from. Um, but where you guys have had beef. Let's get this. You guys had a lot of beef with amateur so far. Most notably, of course,
Beef.
the Magic. There was some beef. There was some McDonald's beef
If
in
that's
there.
beef, oh man,
But
oh man.
I all right. But here's what I want to focus on mostly. The way that you guys have talked with the casino is you guys are public enemy number one. Am I wrong?
Probably not. At the end of the day, that is what it is, though, and I think
Yeah.
our performance and the way we execute will
Yeah.
outshine
So
that.
so here's what I want to get at. Two-part question, and anyone is free to touch in on this. Do you think that is a accurate way to view you guys? Do you think that the scene is judging you too harshly? Do you think that that's spot on? And what is your goal to be seen in the amateur scene? So obviously, like, is this somewhere you want to be? Do you think people are kind of attacking you for success, or you know, how is the reality of your public relations right now compared to where you want to be? I think is the best way to summarize that question.
I would love to start on this, and I know the rest of everybody here can finish on it. Um, I think it's to be expected. As truthful and as painful as this is to admit, I don't think there's another org out there, if they were able to profit and monetize the way that we currently are, and they were able to pay what we're paying, they would be doing the same thing. It's not a matter of
Mm-hmm.
if somebody can or will do it. It's when somebody's going to come and do it. And we're doing it right now. We're
Yep.
living out what a lot of other organizations really probably wish they could be doing. So I understand the hate and the criticisms and the sarcastic, snide remarks, all the hate our players and my management and myself get. Like, it makes perfect sense. It's not really something I would expect any
So
different.
I think you just said something that I really want to hit on. I realize this is a bigger question, and anyone who wants to chime in, I'm very much opening the floor to that. But you mentioned a specific phrase in there. You said that what we are currently doing. Are you talking about your brand as a general, or have you already implemented this strategy with Solafide, and are you already seeing returns on investment? Or is that still something that is further on down the plan?
I mean, that's something that's already been implemented and we are very well aware of. Again, I'm not going to break down the logistics and the actual cash flow in which we're in at the moment, but
Understandable.
I think it's pretty safe to say, and I don't think anyone here is going to disagree. We're definitely doing okay for ourselves in terms of where our finance lies.
Right, but the exactness that I really want to get to, and I realize there's a very fine line between getting public information and also private information, is in regards to your League of Legends, regardless of what the plans are, is this a plan where you are already seeing returns, or is this part of a larger strategy that you are building towards? Uh,
Checking with the PR guy.
okay,
All right, sick. He said, yeah, yeah. So this is our larger strategy.
okay.
In terms of League of Legends in particular, I wouldn't say anything too deep in that, but there are definitely returns.
You're currently seeing returns.
I mean, I'm gonna Stan, I don't really know what your opinion is here, but I'm just gonna say go for it and say yeah, because I mean our work does see return already.
I, I'm still just trying to get to like the League of Legends portion of it like to whether or not, because if you tell me that you're already making returns in League of Legends, I am baffled. If you're saying that this is part of a larger strategy and you may be running at some loss currently, and you don't have to even like talk about, let's not even talk about loss or gain, but that this is part of an overall strategy and you're expecting to see returns later, I think those are two very different things. Because if you're saying you are already making returns on your League of Legends investment, I'm quite frankly calling bullshit.
By making returns, do you mean like the full return of like recouping all losses, or are you just meaning like any
Are
return?
you
of
Okay, so
that?
guys, I'm
currently
going to jump in here for a second
sure?
here. So, hey, I'm
Yeah,
Stan. I'm the head of marketing here. I've
perfect.
just joined up. So, Alex and I are very new to the organization, but as of a couple weeks, we've been very involved with everything. And a lot of what I want to really get to is if you can please be a little more explicit about what exactly you're looking for. Because
Sure.
I can jump into my background and I believe I can validate myself extraordinarily well. If you want to spend us some time to do that, if that'll help, let me know. But I very much want to get to very specifically, what are you trying to ascertain?
So right now I'm trying to ascertain. So I think one of the larger narrative points that Solidified have introduced into this scene again is that there's a
Stop you right there. Can you please pronounce it correctly? Solafide.
Solafide. Okay, sure. Sorry about that.
Like, you can make fun of us by saying Solafide.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Ah,
Like,
yeah.
whatever other suggestions people come up with,
Mhm.
we were kind of surprised Solafide didn't come up first.
I might steal that on a cast now. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna
That-
You're
that's
already
good.
starting the narratives.
That's a good one.
I hope you understand we've got the Twitter account ready to clap back though. So just be.
No, that's
no,
perfectly
like,
fine.
we were,
That's
we were
that's
ready
part
for
of the
that,
fun.
and we were
Yeah.
really surprised. I think it was Solar Fried today, and it was like
Yeah, whoever came up with that, I mean,
That
Okay.
admittedly, like
That could
we
be
were
pretty
I
good
was
against
kind of wondering,
Rumble.
like,
I
where's
like that.
Solafide, like it's just like the first thing that came to all our heads. So that's okay.
Mhm.
But
well,
help me understand, because like I want to get
Sure.
a sense to like what are the overall questions we can help answer, because there are some things in terms of our roadmap that we're not willing to discuss,
Right.
but we do have, and I want to be very clear, there is a 5 and 10 year strategy to everything we're doing.
Right.
And a lot of this is, if we're going to have a 5 to 10 year strategy, much of what we're going to build in this space is learning from the ground up. So if we're going to jump into League of Legends and we're going to have a 5 to 10 year strategy,
Mhm.
then you can allude to where we're going to go. And as such, the expertise that we want to build, we want to figure that out from the ground level. So we ensure that when we get into this space, when we go where we want to go, we can do it thoughtfully, carefully, and correctly.
Right.
Now, if there's a chance to skip a couple steps that are fair and legal, that we're all above board, that may happen. But in the meantime, we really want to stick with the right and thoughtful path.
Okay, that's understandable. If I can kind of lay out where I'd like this conversation to go, right now we're kind of hitting on the a lot of the rumors, a lot of the speculations currently going on in the North American amateur scene. That I'd maybe like to talk either about the your guys as an org as a whole, and then maybe more specifically about your League of Legends roster. So I think right now I'd like to get into more of those financials, or not necessarily financials, but overall your strategy. And I guess if I could pinpoint this to one last question that I really want to get on this topic to really drive the point home. Have you guys made a single dollar from your League of Legends program yet?
yes.
Okay,
I
that's fair.
or just answer that one. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, continuing on, let's talk about you guys more Solafide. Getting that right now, correct? Solafide.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes,
perfect.
Solafide.
I used to be a caster, and I have a terrible history of saying everything under the sun incorrectly. So, if I do misspeak, please do correct me, and I appreciate that. So for Solafide, you guys started off in Apex Legends. You are now in League of Legends as well. Are there more games you guys are interested in getting into? Is this stopping with League of Legends, or are you guys looking to be, what is the end goal with, or even maybe not end goal, but what does the future look like for Solafide?
Yeah, I mean, that's
Alexander's got that one.
yeah, most definitely. I think the best way to view it, and this is at every team on any level, is if the right opportunity arises, you're going to take it, right? And I think that's the same thing what we're doing. We've already gotten an opportunity in the future. Could be this year, could be next, and we're going to take it. And it's going to be hopefully a profitable opportunity for us. I mean, I'm willing to hop into any game, whether it's Minecraft esports if it became a profitable thing, but I'm looking at making sure the organization's profitable. I suppose I'm dodging the question, but yes, overall we are looking to expand, but as long as it makes sense.
Okay. And speaking of that expansion, I know you guys were talking about the Apex. I will be the first to admit that I am not the most knowledgeable on the Apex scene. But speaking about expansion, especially in League of Legends, is part of that future plan? Is there an LCS future potentially for Solafide? Is that part of the roadmap, or are you guys looking to really grow that North American amateur scene?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to stay in league for 5 to 10 years and we don't have an LCS, well, that's
Mhm.
wild, right? I mean, it's definitely something in the future. We just have to see what happens, and if we do things right, we'll see if we can get there.
All right, so let's talk about everyone's favorite favorite topic on Twitter. Let's talk about McDonald's. So this is now potentially transferring more to the League of Legends amateur side, not as much the business model behind it, but more of the team and its doings as of late. But so recently, especially following the loss to Wildcard in round, Cubby, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was round 3 of Resident Esports.
Oh yeah.
You guys went like 10 rounds with Myra on Twitter. Some great bangers
I'm
came
gonna
out of
clarify really quick.
that. Go for it.
They didn't take any rounds with Myra. That was all me, and they were telling me not to take any rounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that actually leads me to a perfect next point. Looking at what has happened over the past days, and I think it's very accurate to say that some of those interactions more or less led to the notorious nature of the current public relation response to Solafide in the North American scene, imagine you have a time machine. Is there anything you would do differently, over the last, few days, if you could change potentially your social media responses? Like, do you stand by everything you said? Maybe do we tone back things here or there? What are your thoughts on that?
Am I free to speak, Stan? Can I?
I wanted to go here.
We haven't heard from Urban, so let's hear from
Yeah.
Urban.
Yeah, let's let Urban go.
So if I could go back, I'd probably change to like Arby's, because like how are we supposed to know they're gonna like panic buy McDonald's after first game? Little difficult there.
I mean, honestly, like that at that point too, like that was hilarious. That was so funny.
Oh, it was funny. That was hilarious. I'm not
It was
gonna
so
take away
funny.
from that. That was funny. That was funny as all hell.
Like it is like, obviously, like listening to Myra's podcast earlier, and they were doing the rank, like the tier lists, and trying to analyze why, different teams are where they are. We're not really taking it too hard there, I guess. Like, it's not like Oddity's freaking out because Wildcard took two maps off and arguably the first amateur tournament there. But it was really just kind of poking the scene to see, like, we meme a lot. We make a lot of jokes. So that's really what that is there, is just like, if you go back in Myra's tweets before the McDonald's joke, a lot of the tweets there were actually targeting our team and I think maybe a new esports on the salaries and the investment being made. So that's where like the McDonald's tweet came through. It was just because like that was the proper response to the previous tweets Myra was making.
Okay, but more specifically, because we are just about to get into a PR battle here of ducking, dodging, and weaving, do you think any of those tweets were too much? Do you think that any of those tweets did potentially cast either Solafide or the North American scene in a poor light? Because I'll be honest, when I was reading through that, the immediate first thing that I thought when I was looking at those tweets, and I am definitely somebody who loves banter. Ask Chris Haskell at Boise State whether I like banter, and he will tell you that I certainly do. A lot of those seemed like very irrelevant jabs, I'd say. It was discussion about, League of Legends. It was discussion about responses to loss potentially, and it turned almost into a, Lamau, by the way, we have money. Is that the image you guys want to be putting out? Do you guys think that is that is just banter?
I mean, I can actually preface the entire situation there. Before
it.
that even came out, there was already discussions of imagine being XYZ and paying this much for players from multiple other people, not just Myra. So it was insinuated that's where the conversation was going to go before it even happened. I think every discussion I've heard at some point or another, it's always been circumvented either around the fact that Solafide is constantly mentioned in a money conversation, or that amateur salaries are skewed, and everything is always coming back to money. Even before we even interacted with the scene, it was Solafide is burning money. And I think the big mistake there, although everybody can always handle themselves in a better and different way, especially with the social media thing, as funny as it was, because again, Myra had a banger that was awesome. I actually chuckled in my own seat, thought that was funny as hell. If before any of that were to happen and there were to be this quote unquote rivalry slash drama, which, I mean, I spoke with the co-owner of Wildguard, and we had a pretty good discussion. I look forward to discussing more with him in the future, probably. I think the appropriate response would have been just, hey, Solafide, we heard a lot of things about you. We hear you putting a lot of money into our amateur scene. Let's talk to you and figure out why. So poking the scene again right there kind of gave me the response of like, all right, what do they want from us in terms of what we're doing in the scene? And it wasn't so much a quick, hey, let's find out about you. It was yeah, fuck you, you have money type response. That's what I got off of it. I'm going to be very blunt with it right there.
Okay. So your view is more of that it was, with Myra's initial tweet, that set the stage for a bit more of a, I don't want to say toxic, but a bit more than banter, perhaps. That the initial tweet kind of set the stage for what was to come. Is that
I don't think anything really came from it, truthfully.
Okay.
At the end of the day, I'm worried about my operations here. Anything I do on Twitter is just me being silly. I think that goes to show with most people. I go on Twitter for the free entertainment. Still can't believe the app's free, by the way, because great things come from it. And just to kind of keep up and meme. I know a lot of my players from Apex or content creators use Twitter, so I'm always on there for that. The org page obviously has a community and a following, so I like to be engaged with our community as an organization. It helps me keep up to date. It's not like I'm going on there and saying this is the Wall Street Journal. I don't particularly care what happens on Twitter as long as it's not crossing a major line, which I don't think anything has come to that point yet. There's been no major line crossed that I can put to date.
Okay. Fair enough. And you know, we live in a different world today than we do yesterday. And so the McDonald's has been eaten. The tweets have been made. Let's move on. Talk maybe a little bit more about your team and its spot in the North American amateur scene as it currently stands. So let me actually start by asking, what do you guys think the current read for you guys is on the North American amateur scene? And to specify that question a little bit further, let's talk a little bit about finances. Obviously, not your guys's, but the scene as a whole. Do you think that the North American amateur scene currently is in a healthy position? Do you think that the way that the teams are paid, the players are played, the way the tournaments work, is that a scene that you guys think is positive, that is growing, or are the things that you guys think need to be fixed or rectified about the whole situation? And I do leave it as a very open-ended question, so you guys can kind of take it where you want, but and I'll ask follow-up questions. But whoever would like to start talking about that, go for it.
Want to tag team this one, Nav?
Sure, go for it.
I think for face value, I'm looking at the amateur scene as a lot of opportunity. It's a ground for cultivation. Everybody wants to see it succeed. Now, a lot of people are, again, memeing and very upset over the fact that we have ex-semi-world finalists and academy players on our roster, but at the end of the day, those are the players people are dying to scrim against and whatnot. They might not be scrimming against them, but they're getting to face them, which ultimately is aiding to their development. In my mind, at least, that's the way I'm viewing it. That's a lot of help for development, playing against players that know what they're doing. I know when we lost to Wildcard, everybody was memeing us, but I don't know why everybody was memeing us. They should have actually been more so supporting Wildcard and saying, "Wow, GG's, you guys picked apart a newly formed team of some really good players, and you did a good job." Going into that loss, obviously, like on our end, it's like, they lost. Oh well, and we're sad about it because obviously you want to win, but I would have liked to see a little bit more support in terms of like what actually happened there. I don't think it's as much of an upset as everyone's putting it to, because I know you guys, when I tuned into your stream, you were discussing the aspect of whether you win or lose, the win doesn't actually mean too much. It's more about the development. I think that match, if anything, showed that Wildcard had a really good roster. They picked up some good people that have opportunity. They have potential to grow, and they're people that are really going to capitalize off this. So when I'm looking at the amateur scene, I'm looking at it as a place that is going to aid the development, but I also understand that it's a scene that's got a lot of growing to do. If you look at EU development versus NA development, it's vastly different. And again, I'm not going to never quote me on anything I say esports related, because I am not too in tune with the actual esports world. I'm not, this isn't my area. This isn't what I do. I play League of Legends and Apex with the people in my organization for fun, to relax and get to know them and have conversation. So this isn't my strong suit. I hired the people to be around me to make it a strong suit.
Okay.
In terms of what we're looking at, I think
it.
Alexander can touch more on the NA scene and why it's different and what we're looking to achieve from it, though.
So before we make that transition, I do want to get to that transition. I'd like to circle back on something you mentioned. So more so what you're kind of viewing is that by bringing this roster into amateur, you think that it is your position that Solafide is almost doing the scene a favor, because you've brought these big names into the lower leagues, and that is going to make the rest of the scene better. Is that a pretty accurate view on your stance?
Like, I want to actually correct
Definitely,
the
it adds
word for a
competition.
second. Like the word favor is, I don't know if it's the right word, but like, we're hoping to
It's
develop
not.
the scene. It's something that we also saw as an inevitability.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't us, we do feel that another org one day would do it. If not this year, then next split or next season. So for us, like, we do believe that there's an advantage to having players of this caliber, elevating the scene from the talent, from the games, from the matches, and more. And we'll see if that is true. For us, it was very much a thesis and a theory that we're going to see if it proves out. And if it doesn't, we'll readjust if we have to.
Okay. Were you the one that was talking? Is there someone else that wanted to get a commented on this point before we ask more questions or circle back?
I don't know if Nav has
On
anything to
now,
say.
yeah.
I mean, the only thing I can say is, coming from working with EU teams and teams outside of League of Legends, the reason why I'm so interested in NA Amateur is because it's basically a brand new scene, right?
Mhm.
It's like the previous years where I wouldn't even call it amateur. It was below that, just from the sole factor of you never really saw a lot of these young players get a decent salary, with obviously not just us, as I said before, getting a salary where they can actually develop themselves and put actual time into it. I think that's really why we're targeting it as hard as we are.
Okay.
Yeah, and
go
to
for it.
to like to bump on in here, I think this is like also the first split where just due to like what Riot has organized, like this actually is an option, right? Because like
Exactly.
beforehand, if you're a player like Zazel, are you going to go down to scouting grounds and compete with something that is just purely for development? No, you're like, but with proving grounds and the fact that like there's that prize dangled at the end, the fact that you get to go play against the academy teams and that wall is broken down, it makes a lot more sense for a player like that to be interested. And so like that's one of the reasons that there's more money flowing as well. Also, Riot's pumping in like $5 million into the scene instead of pumping it into collegiate like they've done the past few years. So that also really shifts resources towards the direction of amateur too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I could be completely wrong, but tell me if I'm right or wrong. Nobody's been able to come into amateur and build a roster that is hopefully, once again, hopefully, going to successfully do really well in proving grounds. Not just these tier 2 or tier 1 tournaments. I mean the finals in proving grounds. I want a top finish
Well,
there.
it's a very hard.
And nobody's had the access.
Yeah,
it's tough to judge that because like they were never even able to compete against
exactly
academy teams.
That's why it's so interesting to us, and that's why we've invested as much as we have, because we want to prove that yes, money works, but we're able to go and hopefully win, essentially, as I like to call it, academy finals.
Yeah. Well, actually, it is academy finals because that is the end of the academy season to give that even more merit. I want to ask a follow-up question, but I do want to wrap back around something that my co-host just said. A slightly unwilling a drafted co-host.
Apparently I'm checking
they said
chat.
$5 million, right?
That was in the initial. That was in the initial announcement.
They said $5 million.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's the original number I heard throwing around, like the bonus stuff they were going to give to the amateur space.
All right, well, I guess chat will tell us if you're wrong, but
apparently I'm wrong.
Sounds feasible.
I thought that was in their announcement. So if I am wrong, I apologize for pushing false info. But it is very clear that they are now focusing on amateur instead of collegiate.
Yeah.
That point definitely still remains.
Yeah, I think the main question was just like the exact figure, but like the overall idea I think is understood. So
yeah, that's my bad. I could have sworn that was in their initial announcement.
2 o'clock brain, let's go.
Yeah, pretty much.
But fair. Kind of wrapping around back to the discussion of Solafide in North American Amateur. Given that you guys are coming in and doing what you guys are self-describing is something that no other amateur team has ever been able to do, which I think that claim is I wouldn't say unfounded. There's still a lot of season left, and we'll have to see where the cards do lie, but that's certainly in the possibilities. When you're talking about improving and developing the North American amateur scene, where do you think that the main points of improvement need to be made? Whether that's with tournaments, whether that's with the players themselves, the organizations that run the teams, with the leagues, whatever it may be. Where do you think that the chief, faults in the current North American amateur scene is?
Yeah, I'm going to touch on this quite a bit because I will say this, and once again, tell me if I'm wrong, but no manager in League of Legends Amateur Series has won a World Championship or built a roster that has won Worlds in any game.
I am inclined to agree with you.
Pretty confident you're right.
I think you're right.
I mean, that's completely different over here.
Clarky might want a word, but I think that's about it.
He's in collegiate more than directly amateur, and I think he's done a great thing with Maryville.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to touch on Clarky. What I will say, however, is nobody knows how to actually develop talent. Everyone says they do in amateur, when I've seen zero reason to say they have. I mean, we lost that tournament in day one, and we've changed quite a bit regards into the back end of how we're doing things to ensure that we're going forward and winning. I don't know if when one team loses one match, they go and change certain things to understand and figure out why they lost. They can say, hey, we looked back at the matches and spent an hour analyzing the match, but there's more to it than just the match itself. And I don't think that's what a lot of amateur players or managers even know.
So when you say that, like, would you constitute a team like 100 Thieves Next not being an amateur and like that being responsible of like the pro org?
No, I think 100 Thieves is a bit different with them investing into amateur, and I think that's great. I would say, however, they aren't. I wouldn't consider them an amateur team.
Okay. Yeah. I was just curious because they're their roster, this previous scouting ground split, they got 8 players promoted between Poom, Tenacity, Kenvi, and then the rest of the roster getting picked up, or 7 because Fallen Bandit didn't get picked up. And so that obviously like doing that in 8 months, and especially the quality of some of those prospects that did get promoted was very impressive this past year.
Yeah. And I kind of
Absolutely.
want to loop back on something you mentioned there. So with that, Sabine, are you saying that the one of the core focuses on the Barrage roster is to develop talent in the players? So to improve the players that they're leaving better than they came in. Is that one of the core ideas and points of this year's roster?
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the support stuff like Sojin, who we picked up, who I think is an amazing coach,
Good
by
for
the way.
Soj.
Sojin's very good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at our roster and you see our strong points. Our strongest point is probably either the bot lane, but most likely, and I think everyone can agree, Sojin's known for when he plays, he's a jungle player. Obviously, I don't want to say Winston's our weakest, but he's the less experienced, not having LCS stage experience or anything like that. I've specifically gone and gotten Sojin to help ensure that Winston does learn and grow here. While on our bot lane, we've now got an analyst who's gone to Worlds, Jido, great analyst, by the way. And we're ensuring that everyone's able to actually grow themselves, even if it's by 1%, right? But we're specifically targeting people such as Winston and people that don't have extensive time on the LCS stage. And we're trying to benefit them the most while having a secure, strong roster around them.
Okay. And kind of going off that, what was the main decision coming in? Because I assume, as every team does in Northern Amateur when building that roster, there are options to, invest in that new talent. You did mention Winston, who, well, sure, has been in scouting grounds for, hasn't really gotten the main stage LCS debut as some of your other players. There's the option to pick up the known quantities, the ex-LCS guys, and there's the option to pick up the amateurs. So my question to you is, given that you are an organization that is very focused on player development, what was the thought process you guys went through when you were deciding, to go with a roster that was 4/5 ex-LCS players?
Yeah, so here's the thing. You can up 5 players from amateur into LCS level, maybe even Worlds players all at one time. I think being able to specifically target 1 or 2 players and work with them while having a really good environment around them is a way you go from maybe boosting a player by 10, 15% to 50 to 60. And being able to focus on less experienced players, but still amazing players, and being able to truly help them. I think that's something that we're able to do with the roster around them. And yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Taking I don't want to say too far a step away, but
Sure.
we're talking before about the the development and the putting together that League of Legends roster. Let's talk about league results. You mentioned before that after your loss to Wildcard, it was, what was your round 4 match? I believe it was, Cubby, please help me out here. I have a terrible memory.
After Wildcard, who they played today?
Yeah,
Clarity. We played Clarity. That was
yeah,
it
yeah.
was
Clarity,
rough.
and then you played. So you mentioned that it was the difference in development you guys made between the Wildcard match and the Clarity match, I believe, where you said that you guys improved to a point where you're able to defeat Clarity.
I wouldn't say we improved, but I would say we changed internally how we did a few things.
Okay. I do want to get at this because I know that Chad is going to demolish me if I don't ask this question. There was a rumor going around that before the match versus, what was it? I believe before the match versus Wildcard game where you guys did end up losing the series, that you had put the players through a 5-game scrim block to warm up. Is that true?
Yeah, so we come from, or I suppose I come from the European scene where you scrim more than tournaments, right? Over in NA is very different. I wanted to specifically try a different way of pushing players. Obviously, it ended up not working, but I think you have to test a few things. And I do believe in the other matches it worked, and it gave the players really good knowledge about how to move forward. Unfortunately, it didn't work out as we intended, but that's why we were able to move on and change it.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm getting you correct, in matches before this, you had been warming up with 5-game scrim blocks. You went into with wildcard, got not great results, not great feedback, and you have decided to change them moving forward, or you've changed how you've approached. Oh, please, correct me.
Sure, no, it wasn't like every match we were doing 5 scrim blocks. Just want to say that in advance.
Okay.
There's obviously when we came to arrange scrims, we were on a very tight schedule coming into when we did. So we got as many academy scrims as we could as well, and we believe that being able to actually practice against academy teams is a priority for us due to us wanting actual results in the Proving Ground finals, and basically squeezing in as many as we could was our target. We did that, I believe, one tournament. I'm not going to touch too much onto it, but we did try to get the scrims because it was very, I would say, necessary scrims before that tournament.
Right. And when we're talking about scrims, we're talking about the ones I'm referring to are more warm-up scrims. Of course, scrims are a very common thing in North Korean amateur. But yeah, no, I think I get the gist. Cool. Moving past that now, rumor taken care of, chat satisfied. Let's talk about your current results. So, of course, going into playoffs, you guys are up against. Actually, let me pull up the bracket. I won't get into too much.
I've got it. They're
Thank you.
going up against Team Revival, and you guys are gonna be on the main broadcast tomorrow.
Perfect. Cubby, are you gonna be broadcasting that?
No, I'm on semis,
Well,
so
don't
sorry.
worry. We'll send this entire VOD to whoever the cast are. They're gonna get some great content.
We'll make
But,
sure they're prepped.
Yeah. Going into playoffs now, and obviously Proving Grounds is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Like, we got to go through tier 2s, then tier 1s, and then Proving Grounds. And you guys had already mentioned, your eyes on the prize. Proving Grounds, winning Academy, playoffs is part of that process. What are your guys' short-term expectations for the squad? Obviously, a loss to wild card, it's never part of the plan. No one writes on a whiteboard, we're going to lose in round 3, but then we're going to win. What are your expectations going into this playoff series, and maybe even broadcast a little bit further? Where do you guys expect to be by the end of, let's say, tier 2, so like in a month's time?
Yeah, to be honest, I want the boys to learn as much as they can. Results are fun and important to us, but as long as they're learning how to play with each other as a team, in all honesty, I don't really care. As long as they can get to the Proving Grounds and as long as they're learning, that is the most important thing for me. As much as I want to win everything up to Proving Grounds, as long as they're developing and they're actually able to go ahead and get that top position in Proving Grounds, that's really all that matters. Short terms, as great as they aren't going to be our priorities. As I said, we're here for the long term, and I mean, that comes in with the splits as well. We're here for the end goal, not middle tournaments where it's like bragging rights and everything fun like that. I want to win the meaningful end game tournament.
Okay.
So
Yeah, and I mean, you guys fall in a pretty obvious spectrum of 3 rosters, including the team that returns a part of where, and you guys are looking to scrim academy teams and punch in Proving Grounds, right? Like a roster with Sazel Apollo is not looking to, do well in Risen. You guys definitely have your eyes on the prize. That's a very reasonable expectation for all you, Barrage, and Anu coming on in, and Maryville when they enter the space pretty soon here.
Yeah. So you were talking about short term. Let's talk long term, or at least long term within the year, within the season. You've talked about wanting to win that Proving Grounds tournament. Big tournament, big deal. Hopefully, Alan, as I'm sure all of us in the age of COVID really just want to have some sort of live events again. Hope I speak for all of us here. How mission critical to this year's League of Legends program is going deep and potentially even winning that Proving Grounds tournament?
as much as I want to win it, it's not going to be an easy task. I want a top placement. To be completely honest with you, I want to win. Everyone wants to win. I will be satisfied for the first split with very minimal practice compared to the other teams that were formed in October and November. That I'm going to be happy with the top performance. Yeah, that's all I can really say. I mean, the boys are going to play, and if they win, they win, and that's going to be an amazing thing to accomplish, to say the least, especially in the first season of both being an amateur and the Proving Grounds as a whole. So,
okay, I think that's a fair view on that. Sure. So, I mean, looking at the short term, we talked about your results. We talked about where expectations are. Mostly on the developmental side, compared to the other North American amateur teams currently. So everyone who's in that giant lump of 32. Maryville's coming in pretty soon. Where do you guys believe you are currently in that list? I mean, we all love to meme our tier list and whatnot, but do you think that Solafide currently, Solafide, my apologies, I do not joke when I say I don't speak English. I speak American, and it gets wrong. It's thrown out every 5 seconds. But
thank you, Ari.
trust me, Jeff already gives me enough trash headed a barrage. But love him. But trying to regain my train of thought. Where do you guys believe you currently stack up to the North American amateur rosters and teams? Do you think that there are any teams that can hang with you? Are you by far the best, or are you maybe a little bit more middle of the pack?
I think I'm really impressed by a few rosters, in all honesty. I'm obviously going to say we're at the top because we are. I mean, as I don't know how to go about this without sounding like a horrible person, but I mean,
Then
the way
don't.
No, you can say it. I think the pedigree
way-
your
There's
roster
nothing
carries
you can
is
say that has
more,
not
yeah.
already been said on the Risen analyst desk. I guarantee it.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
let's not go there.
what I will say is our roster is feet above everyone else. And I think the results when they come towards the end of tournaments, it's always going to be that. At least I'm expecting that to be the case. And I think, for example, when U's main roster, I think it's a formidable roster. Do I think it's on the same level? No. But I do think it's an amazing roster, and I think Wildcard really did amazing, and they definitely took advantage of the small things that they could. But I wouldn't say there's many. I'm impressed by the Barrage roster, but I just wouldn't say that the players there are going to be able to beat ours in a tournament.
And just because I am on Barrage, and I will try to stay
course.
objective as I can. Specifically, because an interesting thing is that we are currently seated next to you guys in the semifinals. If you win your match today, well, it is today now for me, at least on the East
It's
Coast.
today.
We will be squaring off against you guys in semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
What specifically, or as specific as you're comfortable getting? Obviously, there's always the secret sauce of team strategy. Where do you think your advantages lie over the Barrage roster? This will be the only pointed question I toss at you. Anyone who wants to
dunno.
throw it in.
I'd say every lane, in all honesty. Yeah, I just think we're a better roster overall. I know you're not gonna like that comment, and I do think your roster's good, but I do think our roster just has the experience as well.
Things just got really interesting for me. I don't know what you're talking about. This is fun now.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
It just got spicy.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting
I agree with some of your statements earlier. I don't think Bantch is a bad thing. I'm also not afraid to tell you that you're dead wrong, but that doesn't mean we can't be civil. So,
We're just gonna have to find out in the
yeah,
semis.
we'll figure out in the Rift. But I think that's just about the end of the things I wanted to toss your way. I think we've gotten a good view. For now, if you guys would be cool with it, I'd like to toss a few questions over to chat. Maybe give the community a little bit of time to, we're talking about this being that civil discourse. Maybe rope them in a little bit, and then I'll let you guys, any last things you want to say, anything, shout outs, of course. I do really appreciate you guys coming to my channel at 2 o'clock in the morning, so thank you very much for that. But
Yeah,
does
like
that
the
sound
whole
all-
team too.
Yeah.
We got to talk to every. That's really
got the
rare,
gang.
actually. It's kind of cool. Yeah.
Cool.
We're grinders.
If you don't mind me asking, was it Stan or Alex in the background of marketing?
Here, yeah, Kabi, you start. You ask whatever question you want. I'm gonna
Yeah.
start asking chat. Guys, if you want questions in the chat,
Yeah,
start
yeah.
sending them. I'll
Well,
start letting
I'll
you
buy
know.
the stall. I daylight as a digital media marketer, so I'm just curious.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
hey, Cubby. My name is Stan. I'm heading up a marketing here. So, like I said, we just joined up a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
What kind of questions do you have? Would you like a little bit of background on me?
No, yeah. I'm just like interested in what kind of work you did in marketing previously.
Oh, awesome. So, thank you for asking. This all the way goes back to while I was studying marketing at RIT. I was competing in Battlefield 2 and 2142. It's what got me networked in the space way back in the day. And right out of college, after graduating, I joined up at Xfire, if you remember that one. I was there for a little bit, joined over at Astro Gaming, where I was there for 4 years doing social media, community, content, product marketing, licensing, partnerships, and sponsorships. So that's where I got my feet wet and from the sponsoring org side of things. So I was actually sponsoring a couple organizations across Call of Duty. That's where I also did sponsorships with, I think it was TSM and EG back in the day.
Yeah.
But forgive me, this is now coming up on 8 years ago, so I'm putting us all back together.
No. I always
So,
like asking like where people
yeah.
came from background wise. So
I had an awesome time at Astro, and then moved over to Elgato Gaming, where I led the marketing team there for about 3 years, helping to transition and grow the brand from just being not just a great capture card brand, but a content creator brand, which over the last few years you've seen just the amazing work that some of the people that I was lucky enough to hire have done.
Yeah. You guys are killing it over there.
Yeah, super, super proud of them. And then went over to market research and consulting and sales in the video game industry and digital industries. So that's where I got to do some really cool stuff and learning how a lot of game publishers and digital brands actually look at audiences from a qualitative, quantitative perspective of kind of the intelligence that they need to be able to figure out what directions to take. So that was super fun. That helped me and that taught me a lot about the space, but that's where I got into After that, for a couple years, I helped join up a esports sponsorship agency where we got to learn a little bit about how esports teams were selling, because we had a lot of experience across the team that we built out selling traditional brands and more. And I was coming in to help a lot of the BD efforts there. That's where we had some really cool ideas on how to consolidate and aggregate a lot of the inventory in esports and try to sell that and package that. Unfortunately, while the thesis was strong and the direction was right, just a lot of elements in the space were just not quite ready yet. So hugs and handshakes out the door there. And that's where I've been consulting independently as an advisor and expert for tech, gaming, crypto, and esports for the last 2 years.
No, that's awesome. Good. That's really cool. Yeah, I'm 2 years out, and I've done a little bit of freelance work in the esports space. I'm broadcasting, but previously we ran a platform. It was like tech based. We helped nonprofits raise money. They could play sporting events, or we would turn the Bachelorette and like other pop culture events in the games. We could like play and raise money for your favorite nonprofit. So
Oh, that's super cool.
yeah, it was mostly like digital, but yeah, that was like
usually when
asking
you
people in space.
graduate college, you go right into marketing. You have like the worst marketing job you can possibly imagine.
Yeah. No, I
You're very
skipped
lucky
out on
to
like
feel
how to do
good about it
sales.
right afterwards.
Yeah,
so
I
that's
skipped out on
super
how to do
cool.
sales. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, I hate to break up this
Yeah,
lovely
no.
conversation, honestly,
I
but
go for it.
so
What
far
does
I've only
Chad
got
have?
like 2 legitimate questions. A lot of them are my players being kind of toxic. I'll let them do that on the Rift, not in my Twitch chat. Demos, who seems a little bit biased asking as a term admin, but well, maybe not biased, but an interesting one. What do you guys think the series score is going to be tomorrow or today versus whoever that team was? Revival. Do you think that they're going to take a game, or is this a 3-0 sweep?
I mean, you can't even remember their name.
Hey, I'm just like, I'm a goldfish, all right? I have an excuse, but
Hey man, it's Sudsy's team. Come on.
all I have to
You
do
gotta
is
know that
say
one,
the words
Return.
that are in front of me when I was a caster, and then I just do data otherwise. I don't have to work about names.
Can we ask the chat and specifically ask Tuesday? Tuesday, what's the outcome tomorrow?
Oh, he's
Yeah,
already
Tuesday,
said he's smashing.
Tuesday was
I think,
already
but-
chirping the barrage matchup too. I love that.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Well, if he thinks it's going to barrage, then I think he's pretty confident.
Yeah. See, now I just have to like referee a barrage trash talk thread. It's gonna be like what like LCK does before like their finals, where like they all like have like the trash talk. Those bits are always super funny to do.
Okay, so another question from the chat that I can ask. Thank you from the Odd Orange, great guy.
What's up, Nathan?
So we said before we weren't touching Maryville, we weren't touching Clerky, but I want to touch Clerky this time.
You should think about the phrasing on that question.
He's a
by the
lovely
way.
man. He's a great friend. What are your thoughts on the Maryville roster? You guys talked about North American Amateur. You know, when we've talked about North American Amateur, Maryville's kind of that one that breaks down the door of the bar and is like, look at me. And they will be competing in the big league starting next season. So I'm wondering, do you have any thoughts on that roster, given that they are also, you know, working with some, I'd say, pretty high-end talent?
Yeah, I think they've got an interesting roster. I haven't seen them play, so I think I have to see them play first.
Fair enough.
Because you can chuck the best players together with mediocre management. Not saying that's Maryville, just want to clearly say that. And you'll see the results aren't great. I mean, I'm interested to see how they're going to perform. I know Clerky's previously had a few successes. So we'll see.
Interesting words indeed. I get what you're saying, but fair enough.
I will say this: he's definitely built some successful teams in League of Legends, and I am impressed from his previous years. It's just how long can he keep it up for?
Fair enough. That's a question indeed. I don't think Twitch chat's going to give me anything too much more. I'm sure that, you know, 2 o'clock in the morning might not have been the most optimal time, but in North American League of Legends, we don't quite do optimal that much. Cubby, any questions you want to throw in while I'm still trying to figure out any more questions from chat?
This is where I really disappoint you as the last minute co-host apparently, and say no. I don't have anything else. It's been really interesting though, like having a full team come on in. And
Raj
obviously
sent
you guys,
a huge question on Discord.
obviously you guys have a lot of resources that you're putting into this, so it's fun to not only hear about, you know, like the team perspective, but also like all the stuff you guys have been doing in other esports. So it's
I'm sorry,
really cool.
say Discord?
Yeah, Barrage. Jeff apparently sent you something on Discord. I'm curious because I mean,
He did.
Jeff's a unique one, right?
Hi, Jeff. Yo, Jeff's my boss. Great guy.
I know.
Be careful.
I'm not
Alright.
to say anything. About
Returns running it.
Okay, this is a bit of a pointy question, but you know what? We're going to ask it anyway. It seems interesting to from Barrage Jeff. It seems interesting to me that considering North American Amateur didn't even have a competitive structure prior to this season, I find it odd that any organization would choose to start here and spend such a large amount of money. Obviously, the goal for Solafide is clearly to go to PG and play against academies for increased viewership and engagement. Until they get to that point, though, it's not possible the investment in amateur provides return on investment. If they don't do well in PG or worse, don't qualify somehow. Is that a failure in your mind? A lot of questions in that one.
Can I hit that
Yeah.
one? I've got some really good ones.
Go for it.
And then I know Alex has quite a bit to say, but can you reiterate the part about return on investment really quick for me, please?
I would love
Just so I
to.
ensure.
Um,
Just so I ensure I hit this on the head.
Sure. Obviously, the goal for Solafide is clearly to go to proving grounds and playing its academies for the increased viewership engagement. Until they get to that point, though, it's not possible. The investment in amateur provides return on investment.
Yeah, you're wrong. Straight face, you're wrong. I think you might have to look into your strategy, how you're going about it, maybe a little differently, but you're wrong. There's a lot of money in the esports space, a lot of money in the world, and there's definitely a place to make a return on investment. Yeah, that's what I've got for that one. But
But
again,
it's still
long
your
term,
but it's still your guys'
I, I,
position that your return on investment is coming from your secret sauce.
I do want to
It's
say
a
this,
thought.
however, real quick.
Shoot.
Jeff, have you ever, in your time of Barrage being around it, has it been £1 profitable?
I'll let Jeff DM me on Discord. Yep, here we go. Braz Jeff is typing.
And I do want to reiterate this: has one person been full time as well while being profitable?
We are profitable, he says. Yes, we are profitable now.
Full time with full time employees,
I'll give Jeff the time to. I think there's a
or are
little bit of
people
delay to the
still
stream,
underpaid?
so- Okay, I have another question for you after this, but
Go for it.
I'll let Jeff finish his thoughts first. While we're waiting for Jeff's response, anyone else in Twitch chat not trolling?
What was the rest of the questions from Jeff anyway?
Let him finish this one first, and I'll run the rest of it by you. Actually, the only other big part of that question was, if you don't do well in Proving Grounds, or worse, you don't even qualify for Proving Grounds, is that a failure in your mind?
Yeah, I can easily say that. Yeah,
Fair enough.
I mean it's a formidable roster. Everyone says so. Even I hope the players think so. If they don't get to Proving Grounds, it's going to be a disappointment, not just for us, but for the players. Going from semi-finals at Worlds to hopefully qualifying for Proving Grounds, it shouldn't be a hard task, right? So.
And another thing that I'd like to add here is that
Shoot.
if we're going to have such a long-term commitment for the League of Legends space, which we've basically said that we're going to have a 5 to 10 year strategy, then for me, it's really important that we learn everything we possibly can from all levels of it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where I actually feel really comfortable that we are starting through amateur, and we're learning, we're developing, we're growing. And I feel like that might be some of the challenges for some of the orgs that come in at a high level and don't always have the opportunity to build out the infrastructure internally from all levels of management and experience to do that. Just buying into it, sometimes you can get lucky with that. Sometimes you don't. So I actually think I feel personally very comfortable starting with amateur and learning as we grow each step of the way.
Alrighty.
I mean,
this is about to
if
be a
you guys have
banger coming
time.
back. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Please continue.
I mean, if you have time, I mean, I'd love to, because again, I'm not very in tune with the esports scene, and I think this is what kind of adds a layer of depth to our organization. I don't know, like, I couldn't tell you what is happening in the League of Legends scene, or for the most part, the Apex scene. I don't know. But these guys around me, they do. What I can tell you is that esports as a whole is a total, it's like buying property in Vegas right now. It might be meh right now, but long term, you know it's going somewhere. And I don't think it's a matter of if esports is going to be the next largest industry. It's a matter of when. COVID's already shown how amazing the space is for its longevity. So many people don't have jobs and aren't doing anything,
Yeah.
but you see Twitch creators and professional gamers making twice the salary now because their viewership has spiked. There's more people going to it. And I think the ability.
Yes, sir,
Go ahead.
I'm very interested in you actually mentioning that because I do recall an article about a year or two ago. Cubby, please correct me if I'm wrong, but there are multiple articles evaluating whether or not esports is a bubble prepared to pop.
Okay, so this was closer to
Perfect, Javi, go for it.
franchising. Yeah, this is closer to franchising when like Reggie was talking about how TSM wasn't profitable, or like barely like staying afloat. So this would have been back in like season 6, and then the bubble was a little bit worrisome in season 8, but then Echo Fox sold for 3 times the value they bought in for. Some people like kind of didn't worry about it. And Overwatch League, like they way overvalued their league anyway, and still
Yeah, that
somewhat
league's rough. I've done a lot of
are.
research on that one.
Yeah, and so that was when the bubble was a little bit worrisome, just given the fact that like when franchising was coming in for all these leagues, people were worried about like, like once you get into franchising, then you get into the VC strategy where if they don't get return on investment in 2 years, they're out, and then that org is you're going to sell for a loss. But that hasn't been a major concern, and EU honestly, I know Saturn's putting it in chat, but kind of fix that with ERLs too, because ERLs help a lot with like exposure and developing talent and all
So
that.
I actually know a little bit about that. So yes, I completely agree. With your VC remark, esports isn't ready for VC and VC is not ready for esports. I think that's as easy as it can be said because I know a lot about VC. I have a lot of friends in VC. It's not something that they want. It's not something that's viable for them.
Yeah, because so you're saying that you don't think esports is ready for VC? Is that just because you think that the people that
I think
are raising
VC
the
and uh, what I've discussed with not only my peers, because again, a lot of people out of Silicon and a lot of people throughout
yeah
the states that are involved in VC running very, very great firms. Um, it, there's a lot of over-promising and under-delivering, and that's an aspect that in myself I actually faltered in. I didn't understand the aspect of why VC hated esports and why esports hates VC. But it took a little bit of enlightening from people that are very familiar with the esports space, and then crossroading that with the people in the VC space. Esports is definitely got the potential. It's got the backing, it's got the base, it's got the fandom, it's everything it needs. The only issue is that a lot of people are overselling that. They're over promising it and under delivering. So that's what makes it really difficult for VC because VC doesn't have a real metric with past VC experiences
Yeah,
to go off
yeah,
of.
there hasn't been any successful
So-
exits. But don't you think like the valuation of TL being like at 250 and then G2 being valued at like over 17 million, like don't you think that's going to like ensure that investors that like they are starting to see returns
Well, you
or
want to
potential
think
returns?
about
Can
the type of investors we're thinking about. So
Yeah,
even
yeah.
in VCs, you have different ranges where certain groups of VCs like to play in seed, A, B, C, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, yeah.
So once you break that down, you can understand that there might be some late stage VCs that might be very interested in some esports teams once they get to a certain point. Then
Right.
you might have some private equity groups and you might have some private investors. That's where it starts getting into a much more interesting space when you can understand who the investor is and what their larger interests are.
Right.
VCs in the early phases, they generally want that 4-to-1, 5-to-1 exit. That's just not going to happen in esports right now because really it is going to be very much a land grab. And the best land grabs and the best property that can be built, that's where we see the future. Because I do believe that there might be some course corrections in esports. I do believe there might be some small bubbles bursting in some different areas. That's inevitable. But I also look at it as there is an inevitability given the seasonality, given the age ranges of people growing up with consoles and gaming over sports, that esports will transcend traditional sports. And it might take a couple more years. I'm actually more someone who believes it'll take another 5, 10, 20 years possibly.
Yeah.
But there will be a point where that will overtake traditional sports popularity.
Okay.
And that's where a lot of folks are interested in.
I do want to see this conversation back because I have gotten the response from Jeff, and I think this actually ties in very nicely, not necessarily to this part of the conversation, but part of the overarching conversation we've been having. So back to the question. I believe the question that was levied back at Barrage, Jeff, was, do you have anyone full time, and are you profitable? The response we got from Jeff was, yes, that Barrage is in fact profitable. And I quote, "It's interesting that Alex takes a dig at me when being asked a question. Isn't the whole point of them to be asked hard questions? We have several part-time members of staff, nobody full-time, no, and we're currently paying the highest wages we have ever had. Also to caveat that spending a lot of money is not how you define success. Furthermore, I'm very transparent about the fact that we don't have a huge budget at times. Making it in the UK is much harder than NA as the audience is naturally a lot smaller." So I think this hits at a very, very permanent point about, I think, a lot of the friction between Solafide and some members of the North American amateur community. and that is what is the main focus of Solafide and what is the main focus of North American Amateur? Because as somebody who has been in North American Amateur for approximately, feels like a lifetime at this point, but 4 or 5 years on multiple levels, I can tell you for sure that a lot of the culture currently North American Amateur is focusing on excellence above everything. It's focusing
And
on. Oh, go for. Is there something you'd like to?
I think I can encapsulate this really well, and
Sure.
this just comes from everybody in esports that I've had the pleasure of talking to, and my own 2 cents outside of that. Our mission, our vision, however you want to put or state it, is to do this right. I don't think you have yet to see one single organization come into the space and hit every nail right on the head. Are we making revenue? Yes, we are, and we just entered League of Legends like 2 weeks ago. Maybe three when we technically three. I mean, our players have been here for under a month. So we're already doing great in this space. Is it seen backlash from the community? Absolutely. But our long-term plan is to do everything right. We have people that have seen the failures of esports and what's caused the outside world to absolutely hate on and torch you for being an esports professional in the gaming industry. We have people that understand how outer workings and whether it be finance, business, real estate, or any other venture you want to dip into in the world, how that properly operates. What we're doing is cultivating the very best that we possibly can, coming together and trying to approach this differently to do it right. Now, all Twitter banter aside, because that's just always going to be a thing, and if Twitter banter defines an organization, mercy on whoever that is, because I don't think that's really going to be a big thing in the grand scheme of everything. Because again, Twitter banter. I would just say we need to grow up and get past that if that's the defining marker for everybody of SF in the amateur scene. We're looking to do this the right way. We've got the brains around this organization, and our strategy is very solid. Obviously, I'm not going to share the inner workings of my strategy and how I plan to do it with the individuals we have here.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking for our overall mission and what we plan to do it right. And so far to date, we're doing it very right because we have been making money. We are having income. We are paying players salaries that have been unheard of. We have fully employed management. We have people that are literally in esports for a living. And I'm still able to confidently say, yeah, no problem. Sweet. And I know that's going to be the plan for a very long time to come.
So I think, and even kind of expand on this, because I get where you're coming from. But where I was trying to get with my previous question about some of the friction in there, that a lot of organizations, especially when they're talking in scene, when you're talking business wise, it's a whole different ballpark. But when you're talking to other members of the community as members of the scene, a lot of the times organizations are defined by their track record and defined by their strive for excellence. And I think where there has been a lot of friction is that Solafide, I'm very sorry, the the main talking points that they brought forward so far is very finance focused. It's very revenue focused. Do you think that this is potentially a miss of marketing, a miss of the scene? Do you think that potentially the North American amateur scene maybe a little bit in the past, where it was kind of just like amateur's been this labor of love for a lot of us for such a long time, um, or do you think that it is that Solafide is priding on itself on the fact that it makes money when a lot of these other teams aren't?
I'm not going to say we pride ourselves on making money because obviously there's always more money to be made. I'm not going to pride myself on anything until I can confidently say I'm the best to ever do it, and that's just not the case at the moment. I'm not going to say it is. I think we can pride ourselves on the fact that a lot of people that have been involved in the amateur scene and a lot of people involved in esports in general, they've entered the space too early. I think esports has always been a teetering and a ticking time bomb. It's been waiting to explode. I think overall, COVID has really offered a platform, some solid foundation because people see how serious it is now. Um, Half the people I used to talk to, they would say, haha, you game for a living. Half the people you talk to now, they say, oh, you're a Twitch streamer? I've seen your channel and you make bank. It's a very open-ended conversation, but the space relatively has grown and it's expanded, and I think it's all about timing. It's just like anything in finance. It's always about timing. You have to time yourself correctly. 10 years from now, I hope everything that we've done is great. I hope that we are proving it to be right. And I think it's a matter of time before we know the answer to that. I'm not going to confidently say everything we do is perfect because it's not. Esports is the wild, wild west. You have organizations popping up every other day. You've got people that have a lot of money. You have people that don't have a lot of money and they're still making organizations and still doing this, still doing that. And it dampers the scene. The only thing that's going to tell is time. So over the next season, you're going to get to watch us compete. Over the next couple years, you're going to watch us pick up more players, more talented players, very talented players. If I have to, I will go and get the best players. You're going to be stuck watching us, and we're going to see and test our thesis here because it's really Solafide versus the world, and I'm okay with that. We're going to see this succeed, or we're going to see it absolutely fail. But I have utmost confidence that it's going to succeed. So I guess that's something that time will tell. I don't think it's fair to even ask for a solidified answer. Ha, Solafide tripped me up there for a second. I don't think it's fair to ask where I don't want to get his name wrong, where you see it going or whatnot, because time will tell. But again, it's like investing in Vegas real estate. Right now, it's meh. In the future, it's looking really damn good.
Okay, Solafide versus the world. That seems to be the. I think that's the
I think we
overarching.
need that on a T-shirt or something.
Yeah,
That'll
Yeah,
be our
I
first
mean,
merch
yeah.
drop.
everybody in the amateur scene can hate us. We're not going anywhere. We're gonna keep
Yeah.
putting money into the scene, and we're gonna have one of the top
If
rosters. Whether they perform well or they don't, it's gonna be big names that have very, very experienced capabilities in the scene, and they're gonna be a force to be reckoned with. Right now, even if we lost to Wildcard, I don't think there's a single person in the scene saying Solafide is horrible. We know we're gonna mollywop this team. Because if you really think that, then you're just ignorant.
Strong words. All right.
if
Uh,
I could give a bit of my kind of outlook on everything,
Go for it.
because so I'm not actually a part of the league team. I'm really just, I'm a part of SF, but not the league side of things. I'm really just here because, it's an enjoyable experience. I used to be a Battle Royale player, and I'm currently just managing over the Apex side. But like, I know the kind of concerns that come from the players and the managers that have been here for a long time, because I mean, I've seen it in my own space of Battle Royale, where you have organizations who start just throwing money around, and then they disappear after 6 months because they just ran out of money. You can talk a really big game, but then you don't follow through with it. And like, I understand those concerns, and without going into the finances side, like they, I can promise you that's not what's happening here. And the fact that they could go many, many years of this if they really wanted to, of having one or two teams or three teams or whatever the thing is. Like they have spent the time to make sure they've done it right, and I really wouldn't be here otherwise, because I have
mhm.
seen many of my friends get messed over with similar stuff. I myself, when I was deciding to quit competitive play, I ended up just signing to one of those teams that came in with big money, and I knew they didn't know what they're doing, so I just asked for an outrageous salary and got it, and I was like, okay, sweet, and I ran it until the organization shut down. I understand that side of things. I get where the concern's coming from, and I'm not sure if I can really persuade you otherwise, but I do mean it when I say that's not what's happening here, and they really have spent a lot of time making sure what they are offering it does make sense, and that it is something that can continue to be improved upon going forward.
Because I would like to add to that.
Sure.
We are very aware of what people are saying. We are trying to take that to heart to make sure that what we do still has a positive impact on the space. Because if it doesn't, then we're not doing our part as part of esports. Because that's for me, as someone who's been competing for the better part of 14 years, I care about that. We care about that. I wouldn't join this group if we didn't think that was something that they take very seriously. The other thing I'd want to add is that in terms of where we're coming in, we have a fairly good look at what worked for other orgs and what didn't. Because a lot of our friends in this space, some of them are doing exceptionally well, some of them had a rough exit. So every time a new organization comes in, they have all of the learnings from the past.
Mhm.
So we're coming in fairly recently. We have native traditional esports experience and native traditional finance and business experience. And this is where I generally see the merging of those two worlds to be what creates the best foot forward. Not 100% esports, not 100% traditional sports or traditional industries, because that's where you've seen both of those groups, when they're heavy on one side or the other, have a harder time. It's trying to really find that thoughtful balance of the two that could help put us on a good path forward.
Fair enough. Um, Gentlemen, thank you very much. We've been here for about an hour and a half now. I can't thank you enough for your time. Before we send you guys off, what kind of host would I be if I didn't let you guys, take the reins? Some of you guys mentioned that maybe you weren't super familiar with League of Legends Amateur or anything like that, but you've got Cubby here, a world-renowned caster, obviously, and myself.
World
Are there any
renowned.
questions that world-renowned, worldwide? Are there any questions you guys have for us, or maybe even the scene in general? Kind of flipping this interview on its head for a bit.
Yeah, I could actually probably kick it off because I'm curious to see what would you like to see from a team like us, knowing before the call a little bit about us, knowing after the call. My two questions would be this: what has changed, and what else would you like to see from us? Outside of financial details, no, but like legitimately from like what can we do for the space?
Cubby, you want to take the one first, or?
Yeah. I think that like the NA amateur, we always get somewhat concerned when we see like big orgs come in, and it's just because like we've seen so many fail beforehand. Because I think with the old format, there was no money to be made in amateur, and it was always a passion project, right? I think that with this format coming on in, that definitely changes the potential of like for revenue, just given the fact that Riot like knocking down that door between academy and amateur and guaranteeing the fact that they are going to promote those broadcasts, because ultimately Riot, the only promotion they did for amateur in the past was just with Scouting Grounds and hosting that tournament. Um, I like for me personally, like coming in, I thought the banner was funny, and obviously, I think when you walk into a space where you bring in a roster of that caliber, and paying the salaries that you guys are rumored to be paying, I think you walk in with a target on your head no matter what. And
Definitely.
if anything, like coming from a marketing perspective, I think it'd definitely be really funny if you guys like actually roll with that. And I think you could very easily make a very fun brand out of being Public Enemy number one. But no, I mean it's been fun talking with you guys, just because obviously the team comes with a lot of experience in the field, and I always appreciate having conversations about this like industry as a whole. Because before I did casting and marketing while I was in school, I co-founded the first D1 esports program. And we aren't like Maryville where you can create pros, but we are like a college where we can try and place people in the industry to work and do good. So I always
Quick
used to have
flex
those
in there.
conversations
Quick
with
flex.
students. And so it's
Yeah.
kind of fun to have them with people like who are a little bit further down the road too. So I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
I'd love to touch on chat because he raised some really good points. Official Saturn, actually. I don't
Brent,
know if
that
you guys
is,
looked
by
at
the way,
it.
that is the general manager from Supernova, by the way.
Yep.
I
But
mean,
yes,
I'm gonna
if
be
you'd like
honest. I
to.
wish I know who that was, but again, very naive in this space, so
Mhm.
don't. But I would love to get acquainted with you. I think you're asking some of the right questions right now. And particularly in a sense of what do you have financial plans that show you won't only make profit solely from the NA/AM alone? And that's definitely not our only plans slash the only thing we are moving into. I think this is just one piece of the puzzle that we're crafting at the moment. We have people firing on every cylinder right now in different departments, different games, different partnerships, different marketing opportunities, different investments across the entire scene that are allowing us and enabling us to do what we're doing. So it's not that we're competing at this level with this kind of money just because we can. It's because there's a genuine plan behind it that is able to justify the actions. Again, coming from finance, I'm a very risk calculated individual. I would never be putting this sort of money if it didn't make sense. Like putting this sort of money into anything to everybody else that doesn't understand it, it's absolutely crazy. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, and the only way that we're able to change that notion is by executing and letting the rest of the world see that yeah, we were right. Um, and then you asked further down something about you don't care about the dollars figure that we're spending, you care about why we're spending it, and ultimately the development of esports. So I think it's really safe to move away from just League of Legends at this point because League of Legends is not the only esport. The space as a whole is almost untapped potential from many uh, different uh, opportunity lengths. So if you're looking at it from just League of Legends, I think that's too small. You have to understand that we are an organization. We aren't just a League of Legends team. Yes, we have a League of Legends team, and we are giving them money and we are investing into this amateur space, but that's just one component of the puzzle. I feel everything that's been asked here tonight has just been around League of Legends and how you plan to make money from it, but we make money from League of Legends because we're also making money other places. This isn't it. This isn't the extent to which our organization is completed at. We've got plans and we've got partners and we've got the right people around us to ensure that this is just attributing to the further success we're growing into. Look at it like a caterpillar molting its skin as it's growing and it eventually turns into a butterfly. That's what we're going through right now. We're making a really great transition period from just Apex Legends into many, many renowned games to really solidify our name. And I think that's something that puts us a little bit ahead of the curve. So I mean, again, I understand everybody's concerns in the chat about like scams and whatnot, but for the past, what, Urban, what's it been like 9 months? We've been fully operating in terms of salaries, and it's something that, yes, it's happened in the past before, but I don't really care too much about what's happened in the past. That's not outside of my business and my company because I know what's happening here. All these people around us, I think it's pretty safe to say they've got the right experience in the space and enough common sense on their heads to understand if they were to be getting scammed or whatnot. And I don't think any single one of them feel that way. And if you do, speak up because that'd be news to me. I think it's something that we just have to prove you guys wrong on, and that's more than fair because you don't know us. You just know your amateur scene. We are new. We are like the new kid in high school, and you're looking at us funny, and that's absolutely normal. That's to be expected. But in a year's time, 2 years' time, 3 years' time, you're gonna be like, oh shit, that new kid just turned into the star QB.
I know 6 months ago I was sitting in this stream with Return talking with Saturn, and Chrono was in the chat, and we were talking about how a new tournament organizer isn't going to solve things, and Challengers Uprising, I think, pushed the amateur scene the furthest along last year in terms of like, you know, getting us to the next level. So
Yep. So
yeah.
I guess point cut he's trying to get at is that you know that sort of doubt hasn't always led to failure. It has led to success in the past.
I hope you prove us wrong,
Yeah.
man. It'd be good. It'd be good for the entire scene, for real.
Yeah. Personally, kind of going back to that question that got us here, I know Cubby answered the, you know, basically what were your thoughts before, what are your thoughts now, have they changed? And I'll put it quite frankly, I'm very skeptical. I've been around amateur for a while, so I've seen a lot of orgs come in, you know, talk to big talk. You guys have probably had the biggest talk of any org. I mean, that might be part of the branding, so congratulations that is. But you guys have come in. It's been very aggressive. It's been very, you know, we are here to be the kings. I haven't seen it proved just yet, but there's a lot of time. And, you know, if you guys do prove us all wrong, I think that's for the better. So, very curious. I doubt this will be the last time you'll be talking to you guys, and I doubt this will be the last time you guys hear Solafide for you guys in the chat in quite a long time. But yeah, anything else we can answer? Anything else you guys want to chat about? Or
I actually wanted to touch on Jeff earlier because I know he said
Jeff, yes.
regarding one thing, and the reason why I called out the business end of him is because he was saying that we're idiots for spending the money when, well, I said what I said, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I went after it.
Okay.
Thought I should clear that up.
But
Fair enough.
I will also add that you mentioned something about the brand because we're trying to figure out what that means, and a lot of that is something that's particularly challenging in the esports space.
Mm-hmm.
I say branding is particularly tough because when you build a brand, you have control of it. You have an idea of where you want it to go, and you guide it and you adjust as you need to. A lot of what we see in esports is more of a reactive tone, and I'm really excited to see what all the major and top tier orgs do in LCS and elsewhere, because I do have some insight that they're going to be doing some big things with brands across the board in terms of identity, owning something, standing for something specific, and making sure that the visual identity, the voice of the brand, social voice, and more just all has alignment. And that's a lot of what I want to bring to this org, and that's all being crafted right now and probably will be for the first year. So like a lot of it because we did inherit an organization that will be respecting a lot of that as we go forward. But it's also going to be thinking about what and who we want to build based off of our first year here, and how do we control of that. And again, I'm really excited to see some of the other top tier orgs showcase what they can do from their branding expertise and capabilities. So I think it's going to be, maybe this might not be the biggest year, but I'm really more excited for 2022.
Yeah, I think that's really safe of you to say as well, because again, like if we're running into 2021 with a great model that's doing things other orgs haven't been able to do, 2022 should really make us explode per our plans at least, and I'm excited to be a part of the amateur scene. I don't think, as much as the amateur team probably hates us right now, and again, we're that outcast, we're really happy to be here. Like, this is really cool for us. I mean, for me personally, I'm not in the esports space, so being able to sit down with all of my management and some of the people I've met through the community and watch like our league team play, it's really cool. I watch our Apex guys compete. I mean, they've done really well, so it's really neat to be able to sit down and just get to know these guys and do some cool things. And when COVID's over, you're going to see a lot more from us for sure in terms of content. But I think overall, Stan hit that on the head right there.
All right. Anything else you guys like to add, ask, questions, comments, concerns? Anything you guys got?
Chat's just going crazy at the moment.
It always
Just
is.
watching it. Yeah.
Alrighty.
No,
Well,
I think that's it. Thank you so much, guys. Actually, it's been super fun. And whenever we need to jump on it again, let us know. We'd be totally down.
yeah, fair
Yeah.
enough.
I randomly found myself in this call, but I had a good time. Looking forward to casting your guys' team's games in the future. And good luck with NAM and then whatever other games like your whole org is expanding into. Because obviously, this isn't just what you guys are doing. So that's cool. And if you guys win, then the entire scene wins. So, yeah, I hope to see you guys do some cool shit.
Yeah.
I appreciate the time.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having us on because nobody else wanted to speak to us. I reached out earlier, but they just weren't. They were not looking to
Yeah,
talk to
we're not
us.
gonna bite. Wow.
Yeah. That's
Well,
okay.
a lot of
Returned always bites, man. That's the easy person to go to.
you guys haven't seen the half me yet, don't you worry. But yeah, thank you guys very much. It's the classic 1 o'clock in the morning. It's now 2:40 where I am. I don't know where it is where you guys are, but everyone's probably about ready to go to sleep here.
Gamer hours.
Gamer hours
it's-
indeed.
Ironically
8
enough,
a.m.
your
for me.
view count has gone up.
You know, sometimes we take that. But
And anything that you guys like want to promote from like Solafide or like
yes.
your accounts or like whether individual or like the team, so we can all
I
give you
can
a
I
follow.
type it in chat and you can
Yeah,
look at
yes,
yeah,
and I
absolutely.
will
Twitter.
I'll also happily announce that if you guys want to stay up to date with this, new horse in the race in amateur is very, very large, very world champion, world semifinalist horse in the race North American Amateur. Be sure to go ahead and at Solafide GG. That is their handle on Twitter. If you guys want to watch their team play, I'm sure you guys have heard of them before if you're in this chat. But they'll be on Risen. I believe you said the main stream tomorrow, correct? Mr. C?
Yeah.
I'm not
yes,
in Risen, so
'cause-
I can't say.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I,
yes,
I got confused. My mind's
Yeah.
on semis. So
right.
no, but yeah, they're gonna be on Risen _ esports tomorrow at 8
Saturn
p.m.
just
Eastern.
DM me.
Yeah.
He-
Can I-
People tend to do that. Yeah. What's up?
Also, I was gonna say, I think it was demos earlier talking about TOs and whatnot.
Oh, this.
I've actually seen.
Go for it.
No, it's actually really interesting. I've seen more esport organizations be profitable than tournament organizers. It's always harder. There's a lot more break even more than profitability. So if anyone's able to make a TO profitable, kudos to them. Just want to say that.
Well, fantastic. Always good to see the conversation going back and forth in the chat. Yep, they're dropping the Twitter links right down in the chat. Be sure to keep them with that. Be sure to tune into Risen Esports tomorrow to see if Solafide can live up to some pretty high praise for themselves as they go up against Revival in the quarterfinals.
We should see you guys in semis. So
Oh, that's gonna be a great match.
yeah, that's
Oh,
gonna be
yeah,
a
I
hell of
think
a match.
For Raj versus Solafide, that would be fun.
It's pretty hyped. Definitely two of the 4 best rosters we have
Yeah, it certainly
in
is.
the top tier. Yeah,
Alright, well,
I think
fun to watch
the
those
final 4 is like
split.
actually gonna be the best 4 rosters. Should be really fun.
Before I
It'll be
get
fun
spammed
to
on
watch
Twitter
those
that I
three
need to
games.
stop this stream so people can finally go to sleep looking at you, Chrono, in the chat. Thank you guys all for watching. I'm sure we'll do more like this in the future. I'm sure we'll do more where I actually announce I'm doing it not too far in the future. But once again, to everyone involved, thank you guys very much. Thank you to everyone who's following along in chat, and thanks for everyone who subbed and followed right down below. Always love it. Until next time, guys. See you later. Have a good night.